Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the town. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, whose current chapter of her story takes place in Ohio.
Settle down onto your favorite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favorite characters. This podcast covers both book and TV series and therefore will contain spoilers.
Today, gentle listeners, we're going to a ball. Colin has big plans for Penelope, and they get thwarted when he chooses to bring Eloise back into his confidence and gets burned. We shall discuss so many symbols and Luke Newton acting choices that our tangents will tangent.
Tangent inception up in here today. Now we must make haste into today's episode. Now, where we left off was Penelope has just run out of the room, and we did touch on this a little bit, but dear Patty has some additional information from you. Give us all your information.
Okay, I'm still piecing out the ending, but I just wanted to read a little more of the journal because
before you get into this, Patty, how many microscopes do you now have to figure out this?
I only have one microscope that fits on my phone and covers my camera, and I've not gotten that to work well. But I have learned in the process of using that other things my phone camera does that has helped me. And I found a website that has the screen captures that gives me a clearer image without the lines and stuff from my TV. Mm-hmm. So I just discovered that, but my tablet is not large enough for me to get a clear look with any of my magnifiers. And yes, I have a few, but I think it's important because when she leaves the room and Colin comes around and we know what she read, and actually what she read is really beautiful writing. Mm-hmm. And it's about an experience, and it's not even very intimate. It's not.
It was by those standards, the time period.
Yes and no. Yes, he touched a girl's face, but
I thought he's touched a statue's face.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for that episode to rehear it. I cannot wait.
The TBT
for that one.
TBT.
Yeah. Colin on the T. When he comes around and we see where he's pointing, which is at the end of that first page, it's actually onto the second page because he's not sure how much she read and she had his journal up to her face. So he had no idea if she was reading, left side of the page or right side of the page. So I'm going to read a little bit more. I still am working on the end part because it's a little more faint. So I think I read it in the last one where it said, and yet in the throes of passion, these are moments that mimic deep connection. So that's on that same page. And that's where he's pointing and he's trying to figure out how much did she read, because now the next page is covered by the flap of the journal. So if I say ... or blank, ... means there's words under the flap of the journal. Blank means there's a word I'm not sure what it is, so that when I'm reading this, you can understand what I'm meaning by those phrases. So it makes a little more sense. So we have, the more I learn about women, the more I realize that no lover is ... ways of pleasure. What sends one ... of joy, another finds either uninteresting or irritating. I can't decide which word that is, but both of them pretty much mean the same thing, although irritating is a little worse. Many choose the caress of my fingers and blank the strokes of my tongue. I play each of them as the fine instrument she is, as with most utmost tenderness. So there's no getting around what he's been doing with the ladies. And so whenever you see Colin doing that little hangdog blushy smiley face, like, he is so excited she's complimenting his writing, but he really doesn't know what she read. So he's kind of embarrassed, like, oh my goodness, what did she read about me? And that's why in the scene where they're talking about his writing after they have officially made love now, and this nothing compares to this, she says, not even the women in Paris, she's giggling for realsies, and like, it's an intimate moment for her, like they have an inside joke kind of thing. but he kind of turns away from her to laugh, and he's very nervous, and you see his left hand on the blanket, like not know what to do. He's so like, oh my gosh, please don't think I'm a man slut or whatever. Like,
A rake.
I'm not a rake. I'm not a rake. I'm
not the town rake.
Yeah, he's not the bicycle. That's Benedict. But
He
yeah,
says,
so
I'm not
he's
the town garden equipment.
and you can see like he could write a romance novel, very much so. Like, that's why I really want to see.
I wonder if that's where the
but
whole garden and bloom gardening situation came from, because the term rake. Violet would like herself some reiki.
Yeah, please rake me.
Yeah, sorry, my brain just did the tangent.
Yes, little tangent. But yeah, he could write a romance novel, and I think the way his style of writing very much leans more to novel writing.
Mhm.
And I think that Penelope's is more of a column type thing, like very witty.
The way that she writes,
since she gets to keep her
pulls you
column,
in.
I hope in future seasons he's the one that ends up writing the wallflower.
That would be
instead
cute.
of her. That would be adorable.
Well, I mean, looking at their writing styles, you are correct. Like, she has a real way with words of like the alliteration, the fun, but it's not in the romanticized way that Colin writes. And Colin writes in a way that sucks you into a book. And a good book is one that it sucks you into a world. You get to forget your own, you are no longer, stay-at-home mom in the throes of cooking and cleaning and snotty noses. You are a romantic heroine in in a book in 1815, and you are being wooed by a gentleman, where just the act of touching hands to each other is a giddy feeling. And that's that he has that ability to transport you into that world. Whereas Penelope, I think if she were to put her mind to that kind of writing, she would also be absolutely fantastical at it. But at present, from what we have seen from her, the column that she writes is definitely her absolute like strength and passion.
Yeah. And I mean, his writing is descriptive, where she does,
and it's emotive,
more puns, plays on words. She's trying to be clever. She is clever, but I mean, she's purposely using alliteration and other writing techniques for humor. Like, she's a humor columnist. Like, it's very much for humor. Whereas his writing, and we know that this becomes Traveling with Myself. So his writing's very poetic, descriptive. Yeah. Like, the best first line of any Regency book ever is, "It is a fact universally acknowledged that a man of good fortune is in want of a wife." Like, that draws you in. So, I mean, and his is, very similar in phrasing and things like that. Like, he really could write romance novels, like "The caress of my fingers, the strokes of my tongue, playing them like the finest." Yeah. He's the smut writer. But I just wanted to read more of that, because when you see they're in that the guy's the smut writer.
No, well, not that, but isn't it funny that in today's time, when we talk about smut, we talk about, say, the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. There are people out there who would think that is as smutty as it gets. It is very sex heavy, very description heavy. And then there are girls out there who are absolute heathens for it, who are like, that is PG. That is PG. Can you imagine if Colin or Penelope read the true smut books of today, where smut books in 1815 where like consisting of like, he touched her hand here, he traced his fingers here, and that was like absolutely scandalous.
Well, and I'm going to use these two phrases because they're very much in romance novels of today, and they were depicted in this season in every episode. So like, his eyes darkened with desire, or his eyes darkened with jealousy. We saw both of that. And then her heaving bosom.
Penelope, like, there are so many stitches of videos of just Penelope. Well, Penelope's got some anxiety going on, girl.
Yeah, she really does, poor thing. But her bosom be heaving. It's a heaving.
Especially because the corsets back then that they were being put in really restricted your airflow, and I think that probably would have caused more anxiety, because your airflow is restricted. And that's what it's not an actress choice that she's like sucking in to make them prop up so
No.
much. It is just the fact that she is wearing like full corsets going on that.
Well, she's wearing a waspy this season. Those are from the 50s. But still, with her body type back then.
Was it a waspy, the wedding corset thingy?
Yeah,
Was that?
Yes, those are waspies.
Okay.
They're a lot more giving in the center. So
but when
you
you're
can bend and
when you're a fuller figured girl with when I say fuller figure, I mean up top, it doesn't matter what it is, it's gonna push them up.
When you have flesh, it's got to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere.
Like, and that's why I don't believe those videos, like the people that are trying on those shapers and stuff, and they're like showing their flesh and then they pull it on and it disappears. It doesn't disappear, folks. It's somewhere in there. And that's all of Penelope's flesh pushes up to the top.
Yeah.
I mean,
some people have said it, and this is something that I struggled with. And even in my own wedding dress, I had the same. I was double corseted in my wedding dress. Was it kind of pushes you up here, which then makes your arms stick out. And
yeah.
I'm already the T-Rex
in the wedding
queen.
scene.
I've got like these short little arms, and Nicola Coughlan has these short little arms, and it just makes us look like little T-Rex dinosaurs. Like,
no, she absolutely looked like the little brother in A Christmas Story after he puts on all of his snow gear and his arms are out. He's like that in the wedding dress, and that dress was gorgeous.
I loved it.
But that corset, like they really cinched her in. She was very slender in the center.
Yes.
And her boobs were up to her chin now. She could have taken a nap standing up. And
I love the photos of Nicola Coughlan taking naps on her boobs in between sets.
And I've said it, if you've ever seen if you're in a Bridgerton group and you've seen a comment about if God gives you pillows, you use them. That's me. I have absolutely used it for a pillow in a pinch.
So now that we are 15 minutes into our tangent without even getting to our main plot points, let's jump into the carriage.
Okay, Penn leaves. Penn sees Eloise. They're both like, oh my gosh.
They're like, oh my gosh. I mean, we're trying to cut it down here because we will talk about the Penelope and Eloise of it all in our side stories, but we need to stay on task for today.
We're just telling you that they see each other because we're talking about the carriage scene with Colin and Eloise, and this is what they're talking about. And so
they are heading towards Penelope the Celestial Ball.
I did not find a dance card to get a name.
Yeah,
I just rewatched the scene before we started recording.
I think that they have gotten a bit sneaky with us because they know that in previous seasons we have been clocking their timestamps of the dates on the dance cards.
Because the Dankworth Finch Ball does not have a date on it. Their dance card does not have a date, and they're trying to claim it's autumn, and there's no way. If you follow the timeline of this season, it is not autumn. It is not fall.
Nope.
It's June.
Nope.
It's freaking June.
That's Philippa. She's like, I don't know how to read numbers. So I'm not going to put the date on here.
Or Varley, that's one of the things that still occurred. Like she had to order that when they had no money. So
they couldn't afford the extra.
How much? No, no, we don't need a date. We don't need a date at all. They can write it in pencil on the inside.
Yep.
But
bring your pencils, everybody.
So we're going to proceed to call this like the celestial or constellation ball because everybody is wearing versions of stars and you sounded like Arvid from Head of the Class. I am aging myself a lot now.
Miss, call on me. I screenshot the other day and I was meant to be looking into it. The necklace that Penelope is wearing to this ball is nearly an exact replica of the, I don't know what you would call this, the fixtures on the staircase in the Bridgerton household. It's almost like a sailor's steering wheel.
It's the compass rose. I put it in our group, remember?
I don't know. My brain ain't like, come on.
It's I have it still because I intended to talk about this necklace.
Because we've got Penelope wearing the feathering, the butterflies are all over their staircase, but in the Bridgerton household on their staircase is almost like a compass, it's actually more like a sailor's wheel. It's called the helm.
The helm. Okay, the helm.
Is the nautical
way too far?
Oh, and I wonder if Penelope is wearing the helm on her necklace because she is now steering the relationship.
Well, let me pulling up my graphic. It actually means something in terms of because he seeks her out and then she walks to him. So the compass rose most famously represents spiritual direction, awakening, and self-discovery. Wearing the compass symbol around your neck, so she's wearing it as a jewelry pendant or as a tattoo, but this is Regency England,
Yes.
or on a t-shirt, is a request to the universe to guide you toward your true north. So when he spots her, she walks to him. Your right path and home to the essence of who you really are. And if anyone remembers, I posted this back in July in the group, so it's going to be way down there in the feed. But yeah, she's wearing it. So because she's wearing it, she's asking the universe to guide her to her purpose, to her true north, to her home, to her essence of herself. And sailors, because we know with how Colin handled the ropes and the balloon, we know from the costumer talking about he spent 6 weeks on a ship coming home on a 4-month trip. I don't know how that happened. And I will say that over and over again. The timing in this season, I think, is why we're having the delay right now. So I think some people didn't think things.
No, it's magic.
But the compass rose is used on ships to direct the ship. So Penelope is Colin's compass. We know that when he goes on his first travels, and there's an interview from season 2 where Luke Newton is talking about Colin's story arc, and that he went on his travels and he says he found them to be lackluster. They weren't what he was expecting, but he doesn't want his family to know that. So he's coming home just talking incessantly about them. And it makes sense because when he's talking to Marina, he's like, it was remarkable in that I have a lot of remarks on it. Like, I'm talking about it, but like he didn't feel the excitement of it.
Jump onto that line.
Let's
jump onto that line, because you just found the interview where Colin stated that he did not have as good a time on his travels as what he kind of was perceiving to others. And then he said to Marina, what was remarkable about my travels wasn't the travels, but how much I have to remark on it. But that was almost him saying they weren't remarkable. I just like to remark on them to perceive, to give the perception to others that they were.
Right. And I think that's important in that moment with him, because he's opening up to her and telling her the truth. He's becoming vulnerable. He is giving his inner thoughts to someone. And she does say, I like your remarks, Colin. But it's it's Marina.
It's placating.
Yeah, she's placating him and he knows it. And he sees it more through dinner and how she treats Sir Philip, how she treats her husband. And that's why she's being a dutiful
guest, in the same way that she's like, okay, I've done my part. Now you need to toddle off.
And then if you go back to the races, when he's talking to Penn and he's like, because remember, Penn really doesn't think that much of himself, because when he walked up to her at that one ball in season 1, she says, oh, Colin, I didn't know you would be here. And he's like, sorry to disappoint. And then at the races, he's like, I would assume you'd be bored with my travels. You read and responded to more of my letters than anyone else. Like, shocked, almost surprised that
I wonder whether he loved his travels more. He loved sharing his experiences of his travels with Penelope, and when he no longer had that to do, they lost all.
Well, I think the travels were kind of boring, and I think that's when he started writing home. Because he was a young man. He was not planning on writing home, I don't think.
He's always been very family oriented.
Yes, very family oriented. But he wanted to go on his travels in the show to escape.
Yes.
So I think he thought he was going on an adventure. I think he was Bilbo Baggins, and he was going to go on an adventure, and he wasn't planning on necessarily writing home all that much, just enough to let people know where he was and that he wasn't dead.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. So he starts writing home, but he includes Penelope because I think he thought she was engaged at the end of season 1. They wouldn't have an interview with society etiquette, and one of the society etiquettes they had to guess was, what does it mean when a lady turns you down for a dance at a ball? She can only turn down a dance if she's engaged. So I think Colin thought she was engaged, and he wrote to her initially assuming that if she wrote him back, she's not, because she couldn't write him if she was engaged. So he writes her, she writes back. And then I think that's what he got the most out of his travels. And that's why he keeps seeking her out all through season 2, because he's trying to figure out that connection. Because he really got to know her differently as a person. She was always Eloise's best friend, but now he sees her as a, he sees her as a friend. He understands that she sees him in a way he'd never seen himself before. And I think that, between season 2 and 3, when he didn't have her, because she's his compass, she's the one who told him who he was. at the end of season 1, when he goes on his travels, he says, your words were encouraging. I want to see myself the way you see me. I can see myself that way. So she's his compass, and she walks towards him. So she is going towards her true north. He's her true north. She's his compass.
Adorable.
That's the whole necklace thing. And now let's get into symbolism of the carriage, because these two people, they are hiding from each other, and they're even going to a ball in fog. I mean, the fog is like mysterious, enigma, shadowy.
Enigma. In Harry Met Your Mother, there is a book that Marshall always refers to, and it's called Enigma of the Mystical.
Okay, so I just went on and on about one necklace. So you can start talking about the carriage.
I want to talk about the other carriage, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
You can't say the word carriage.
Who wants to talk about a carriage ride with a brother and sister? Yeah, these are the mirror scenes. How you ride in a carriage with your sister versus how you ride in a carriage with your future wife.
So we've got Colin and Eloise in the carriage together, and both are being quite guarded with each other. We have a whole conversation that transpires between the two of them about Penelope, and they are trying to both gauge information from each other. Eloise wants to know, what is Colin doing with Eloise? Colin wants to know what happened between you and Eloise. They are both they're not being themselves, and they're both hiding things from each other, and they can both sense it. So it's quite the tense moment. And even in the responses that they both give, neither of them is willing to kind of budge on the information. They're very good poker players in this scene.
I think they know, like, if they really look directly at each other, they're going to break, because Colin does. He ends up breaking, and he takes her into confidence, and he regrets it later. Yeah. But so the first thing is he's looking at his hand, and like, it probably smarts something serious, but he's like, oh, Penelope nursed me back to health, but I don't want to talk about Penelope with Eloise, so I'm going to hide this. And then he's like, hey, is something bothering you? Because it's weird to ride to a ball without talking at all. Yeah. And guess what she wants to talk about? Penelope. So Penelope was at the house today. The look on his face is like, okay, then. He nods, like, I guess we're doing this. As they're going back and forth, I think, like, because I believe Colin's plan is to court and marry Penelope already. Like, that's already.
Wait, did you say pork?
Court.
It kind of, I'm like, well, that's one way to put it there, Patty. Just putting it all out there. My internet kind of like glitched a little as you said it, and I'm like, pork Penelope. I know we're talking about alliteration, but that's a little on the nose, Patty.
That's a lot of alliteration. No, I said court.
Oh, continue.
His plan is to court her and marry her. So
and pork.
He's very guarded, and pork her too. Let's be for serious here. When she kind of asked how Penelope's doing, and first of all, from the time we had the Bridgerton drawing room and the you're flirting with me and the study, through this whole part, I don't think he actually calls her Pen again until the engagement ball. I'd have to check that. But clock this whole scene, he calls her Penelope. At the ball, he calls her Penelope. And when we get to the kiss, which is a whole other episode, he calls her Penelope. Like, he's looking at her differently. And this is directly from the book, because of what he says coming up is a part of the book, but he doesn't. It's something Colin thinks in the book. It's not something he says. So she asked, how is she? And he turns, and you can see he's like, Penelope, like, oh, you thinking about her? Right? And then she's like, I just want to make sure she's not
suffering
sad
or despondent.
Suffering
or despondent.
And he's like, he's digging in. He's basically going, nanny boo boo, I'm friends with Penelope and you are not. Because he's like, oh, she is neither suffering nor despondent. And I think this is, did he take her into confidence because he was trying to open up to her and give her an olive branch?
No.
Or was he just really trying to stick it to her? Like, he knew something she didn't know about Penelope, because he's more of a friend to her now than she is. And he's closer to Penelope now than she is. And in the book, they really do kind of compete in a fun way over Penelope after the engagement happens. Yeah. So this kind of lays into that too. But he's like, she is neither suffering nor despondent. In fact, she wishes to take a husband. And Eloise, who has been told by Penelope before that she wants to get married, but Penelope doesn't listen to nothing.
But I cannot.
She's like, Penelope,
But I cannot believe that anyone else has any other ideas other than what I think.
Yeah. She's like,
I don't want
Penelope,
to take
that's
a
so unlike her. She's like, that's so unlike her. And here where Colin turns, and it's kind of a whimsy. He's like, maybe
husband.
she's changed. And you think he's saying that to her in that way because he's digging at her, like, she's changed without you, right?
Yeah.
In the book, there is a part where he's realizing that,
Maybe the
and
way I
I
see
think
her
this
has
plays
changed.
into he's caught feelings before the kiss, because this plays directly from the book where he's like, when did he start having feelings for her or thinking of her in this way? And he goes, she's changed. And then he goes,
Maybe I've
maybe she
changed.
hasn't changed. Maybe I've changed.
I
And
think
that plays.
was it during the eclair scene? When did I start caring about the opinion of Penelope, or when did I start? It was some term like that. When is it that I started like craving being around her, craving to know what she's thinking?
Well, that there's that part, like when he thinks he irreparably damaged their friendship.
Yeah.
He was like, A, he didn't realize he cared so much about their friendship. B, he didn't realize he would be so worried about losing her friendship. And C, both of those thoughts terrified him. But there's this part, and I think it's right before the kiss. I think it's when he goes, he's telling her he thinks that Eloise is Whistledown, but he's sitting there thinking, like, when did I start thinking of her like this? What, and she's like, when did she change? And then he goes, well, she really hasn't changed. What, maybe I have changed. And that this line directly plays into that, the way he says, maybe she's changed, because the way he says it, I feel like he's really saying it like he knows she hasn't changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is really for show for Eloise, but he knows Penn hasn't changed. He believes he's changed because he's going to get what he wants regardless of societal outcome, I think. And she's like, should you be helping her or whatever? When she says, do you think that's wise? He side eyes her. He's like,
Well,
we're still talking about
honestly,
this. I
when
have
he
to.
says she doesn't have any male family members to do it, like, hello,
Mhm.
sir, are we just going to completely cut down Mr. Dankworth and Mr. Finch, because in the books he's the one that helps facilitate the relationship between Posey and the clergyman?
Oh, Mr. Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Woodson. He's the one, because Penelope's like, oh, not Penelope. Sophie says to Benedict, like, oh, sorry, it's not messing up my brothers now. First I got the Lords incorrect, and now I can't even distinguish 2 from 3.
Now that you got the Lords all figured out, you're screwing up the brothers.
Is it 2 or 3? Sorry.
4.
No.
Gregory's still the pet.
No. Number 2 or 3, because Benedict is just known as number 2. So Colin's number 3. Bridget and brother number 3. Sorry, boys. Okay. In Benedict's book, Benedict is the one that facilitates the relationship between Sophie's stepsister Posey and Mr. Woodson. So obviously stepbrothers, brothers-in-laws, all the rest of it, stepbrother-in-law technically, and he still helps facilitate a relationship between Mr. Woodson and Posey. So why is it that
the connection? Yes,
he does? He creates the introduction. He brings them over, or gets Sophie to interfere as well. But why is it okay for him to do? But Colin's like, oh, no. She has no male relatives that can take care of her. I must take care. Like, he's like completely discounting because he didn't want to. He wants
and I
to
think
take on that role.
This is one of those moments that
I think he would have done this
or not
even if her dad was
Eloise,
around.
because
He's just making
he wanted
excuses
to marry her. It's
Yeah.
excuses. He had a plan. He wanted to court her and marry her, but not in a way he saves face with the Lord Squad.
Mm-hmm.
But 2, he's also got to circumvent, because he's an internal thinker. He is, and trust me, as somebody who's an overthinker and the week I've had, when you decide what somebody else is thinking, it blows up in your face. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew, based on the way Anthony talked about all those different lords in season 1 and how hard he was on Daphne and helping her find somebody and what he would accept and not accept. And I mean, look at what he was looking at in his own wife. I mean, he was just as bad in season 2. And Colin had to see this. Colin did not believe that if he brought Penelope home, Anthony, there's a reason he finally poured his heart out to Penelope the night before Antony comes home. And that's the reason everybody says, like, that moment in the carriage when he's like nods his head and whatever, that's when he decided to marry her. No, it isn't. He decided to take her in the house and announce it because he had to circumvent Antony.
It's when he decided that he was going to propose right then, but it wasn't when he decided that he was going to marry her. He had decided that long ago.
That was when he decided he was taking her in the house now. Yeah. He wasn't waiting till tomorrow. He wasn't calling on her. He wasn't asking Portia's permission. He was announcing it to his family now.
Crafty Colin worked outside of the bounds of society to get what he wanted, knowing that if he stuck within the bounds of society, he wasn't going to get the girl, and he was not going to risk not getting the girl.
And Penn did the same thing. Again, I think this is why we need them doing that pole mall business. Because she wrote it in Whistledown because she knew her mother said, if you're not going to be smart, Penelope, I will be for you.
And she's standing outside listening to her mother, hearing the news, like, did my plan work?
And she's happening? Like, yes, for real. So that tangented off. Let's go back. Where were we? So anyways, he's telling her, like, these no male relatives, that's an excuse. That's him like being affronted, and like he has to come up with the reason why he's doing this. That isn't, I want to ask her to marry me, but I just needed to spend some time with her because Eloise is not a safe space yet.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, she has no male relatives. Who else is going to do it? And then she says, but you're an eligible suitor, probably the most eligible right now. And the look on his face, he is purposely, that's poker face all day long. He is poker face. He's not even looking at her, and he's poker facing. He's like, that's why we're not telling. You know, like.
And I also think that Colin is using this moment in the carriage with Eloise to kind of gauge how damaged the friendship is. If I bring Penelope into the family as your sister-in-law, is there a chance of a friendship, or at least, you know, how bad is it?
And that's why he's so frustrated when she says again, we simply grew apart, and he is so visibly frustrated. Like,
I know that's not true.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
he knows that's not true.
Yeah, he's trying to gauge, like, how bad is it? Like, if I marry this girl, is it going to cause a rift in the family as well? Like, do I need to do groundwork here to resolve your rift before proposing? How bad?
And I honestly think in the carriage, he wanted to try and tell her about his feelings and what were her thoughts on it.
She wasn't being a safe space.
Out what the rift was. But when he saw she wasn't having any of it, and that she was like, she instantly was like, she's not looking for a husband in you, I hope. He was like so quick, like, no, I'm just helping her.
Emotional vulnerability breeds emotional vulnerability. So if she had been emotional and vulnerable with him, he would have reciprocated. But because he could see that she wasn't telling the truth and was closed off, he's like, okay, she's not a safe space for me to share my feelings with at the moment.
But he bit himself in the butt there because he had to dig at her when she was being vulnerable.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who would like to bite his butt.
It's like he bites his own butt enough. He's always sabotaging himself in a way because he's a little impulsive. So he chose in that moment, he could choose to be vulnerable with her, and possibly they could have had an interaction and a connection that allowed him to express that he loved Penelope and this is what he wanted. And she could have expressed that she missed Penelope and she wanted to repair the friendship. But because he dug at her, he chose being a brother instead of being a friend in that moment. And it definitely backfired.
Let's move on to the ball.
Well, the carriage was seriously a lot. Yeah, there's seriously a lot that happens in that carriage, though, in terms of what's going on between the two of them. They're talking about Penelope. Like, there's just a lot.
Okay, so my next point was, arriving at the ball, Colin is searching for Penelope, but he is looking for her in yellow because he has grown accustomed to many years of Penelope being his little yellow sunshine. And he's like, he finally spies her sitting next to her brother-in-law's, and he gives this relieved smile like, oh, there, I found my sunshine, as if like she's the greatest joy to see. And Penelope kind of gives him this cute little tentative smile back, and then subtly moves over to him because she can't be too obvious here, as if they're not being obvious to anyone who actually took the chance to look.
Well, in their first looks, like, she looks up and she sees that he spotted her, and she almost looks kind of surprised. Like, Dude, he's always clocked you in a room. Like, why
But
are you surprised?
now they are actually acting like two people who are officially courting. They are being shy with each
Yeah,
other because they've just had this
yeah.
very, very
Well,
vulnerable, close moment where they were looking into each other's eyes and it was like going into a moment. And I think they both are acknowledging it. And now they are acting shy with each other as if like two people who are courting who haven't had years of friendship under their belt. They're just acting like a
mhm.
cute little courting couple. And I love
Well,
it.
and I love the look when she notices him and she has that little surprised look on her face. And then you see him like this is like when he first spots her, he's like, I found her. But
Hmm.
then that second look is she is a vision. Like
Hmm.
she is so beautiful. And she was, I mean, that whole get up,
Absolutely.
gorge. And his eyes drew her in. First of all, he's standing in front of a mirror that's shaped like a carriage, y'all. So that's her going to him, like entering the carriage with him instead of him entering the carriage with her.
Mhm.
She goes into the carriage space with him in front of that mirror, and she's Miss Demure, and she's like, "Goody," and there, and he doesn't. He can't even speak. I think she is so beautiful in this moment that he really lost his voice. He just nods. He cannot speak, and she asks, "How's his hand?" And he finally,
He has a
he's like,
visceral
"It's good."
reaction to Penelope
Yes.
often, and people completely overlook it. So many people. And it,
But he's understanding it now. Like I
yes,
think I think he came in knowing he loved her, but I think he's really starting as they've been hanging out and he's had complete and utter solo access to her because Eloise is not I mean, because seriously, y'all, in TikTok, when he apologizes to Eloise, he says, and you loved her once. You two
mm,
were inseparable. And the way he says it is kind of like,
Eloise
I
this,
tried.
Penelope
Yeah,
this, and Penelope that.
yeah, I tried to separate you and I could not even separate you because I wanted a piece of her too. I wanted some of her time. So he's had her to himself this whole time and he's really realizing just how beautiful she is. And like, I mean, he's always known like inside, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
he's always known she's beautiful and I do think he liked her in yellow, but he's just like, he knows what he wants and he's like, it's the look on a man's face he knows tonight's the night. Like, because this is what I think the plan was. I'm going to get her to talk to a couple of lords because she's super shy and introverted and she hasn't talked to anybody at a ball ever but me and Eloise. So
Hmm.
I'm going to get her to talk to some people. I'm going to ask her to dance. We're going to dance. I'm going to dance 2 dances with her. I want everyone to know. And then I'm going to call on her tomorrow and I'm going to propose. He planned on doing it society's way, but he told Eloise. And Eloise is so distraught over losing her friend to marriage that she was going to grow old and be a spinster with that she doesn't realize she confides in an open space for everyone to hear. And it goes around the ballroom. It goes around the whole place like wildfire.
Because it was
So she
not,
does.
who was it? Miss Livingston who
Miss
spreads,
Livingston's the one.
yeah.
Yeah, she spreads it. The younger Cressida.
Yeah, Chris. Mean Girl 2.0.
But like a lot of people get confused because when they see Colin watching her, because I think it's when Colin is looking proud of her, it's when she's doing the fake charm, when she's doing the shadow Colin work, like when she brushes her hair back and she's like, I believe life is too short, whatever. That's when Colin is looking proud of her for doing what she's doing. But when she's actually genuine with someone, so like, okay, I'm gonna backtrack for a second because I got ahead of myself. When she talks about his writing, he's all embarrassed but cute and oh my gosh, Penn complimented me. Then she wants to read more, so he's like, okay, you talk to 2 lords tonight, at least one. I'll let you read it. And she
Hmm.
goes, okay, pick one. And he says, Lord Basilio. This is what you have to understand why Colin did not pursue Penelope up until this season. When he found himself, when he gained a little more confidence in himself, when he realized she's looking for a husband, I've run out of time, is right here. Because he says Lord Basilio, and she says, what? Lord Basilio is a Viscount. She
Yeah.
doesn't believe she can get a Viscount. And he's like, and you are Penelope Featherington, and don't you forget, because he knows she can. He's believed she could get whatever she wanted. She could have had the Duke of Hastings if she'd have been there and been introduced. He doesn't even think twice about it. And he said that she was too good in season 1. Like he's always believed she was on a higher level than.
Hmm.
So when she goes to talk to Basilio, he's super proud of her doing the fake business. And then the look on his face when Basilio gets all upset and then leaves, like he's not clocking that he's upset. really like my horse died. He thinks he's cutting her. And if eyes were lasers, Basilio would be dead.
Like, okay, we've said it before that Basilio may or may not be part of the Lord's squad. And I know that he has been part of some conversations that we certainly judge him for. But I think when not in the company of unkind people, he is not explicitly unkind. The fact of how he reacts to his horse passing tells me that he does have a sensitive nature. And because of that sensitive nature, I think Colin thought he would be a safe choice for Penelope to talk to, because he's not outright cruel like some of the other lords. He's not outright callous about women and that kind of thing. And so Colin thinks, okay, I'm going to send her to build her confidence with some kinder lords who they're not her type.
But he also knows that Basilio's not really. Basilio was part of the group of Fife and Wilding who are not seeking a wife. No, they're just there to play with the women.
Yeah.
So he knows Basilio's not seriously seeking a wife, so he didn't have to worry about that, but he could give Penelope a safe space to practice and have some confidence. But he truly expected her to walk over there and do the fake stuff that he was teaching her. And because Basilio gets upset and she gets super genuine, he has a wig out moment. And then he is so mad at Basilio for leaving that like he thinks Penelope got the cut. And seriously, if fire could have shot out of his eyes at Basilio, that it would have.
Even before that point, when we see her conversing with Basilio and she puts her hand, you see the immediate look of, oh no, from Colin.
Yeah.
Oh no, what have I done? Is like, they shouldn't, what is happening?
Yes.
This is too much contact. And he is panicked. Like,
no, this is connection. This is genuine connection.
Yeah.
He doesn't want genuine connection from Penelope to any other man but him. He wants fake. He wants her awkward or fake.
This is one of the times where a lot of the audience did actually clock, oh, okay, Colin's jealous or maybe has feelings at this point, some level of feeling. But
some people did, yeah.
Some, because I mean,
but some people are also like, this is where he's realizing. No,
it's not when he's realizing.
Read the lyrics of Jealous. He's been there. He's been there already. It's not until she's talking with Remington that song comes up. I know that, but still. There's no way that their relationship lasted 20 minutes and now all of a sudden he still gets jealous. No, it goes with both of them. But I think that the point there is that you see if Basilio would have given her the cut, we know Basilio's horse died and it turned into a funny moment. But if Basilio would have given her the cut, like think Stanton Wilding at Stowell House or wherever.
In the next
If he would have done what they did and Penelope would have said, oh, he hurt my feelings or whatever. The rest of this episode, nobody would have cared about their whole thing getting spread around because the story would be that Basilio got a beating. Colin was mad.
I don't think there would be even a story about it. It would just be a Nigel Burbrook turning up black and blue. Like, you look rather unsightly. Do you not want to go tend to your wounds in the privacy of your own home?
See, the thing is Colin.
And then Lord Basilio would just say,
Colin is not Simon. Colin is not Simon. Colin would have ran out in front of everybody and beat him to pieces in the front yard. Like,
and then, no, he would have done it in private. And then Basilio would just say, it was my horse. I fell off my horse. And then they'd say, your horse died.
Isn't your horse dead?
Maybe that's why the horse is dead.
Your horse died.
The horse gave him a bit of a beating and he gave one back. It's how the horse really died.
And Colin is a lover, not a fighter. But Colin in the show he was excited to box whoever in season 1. Like you hear a side conversation with him and Benedict when Simon's at the house and he's going to get to box whoever. And Benedict's like, I'd like to see that.
But honestly, like the one liner that we get from Colin is it goes right up there with we must make haste. Like, let us gallop along is one of the most iconic lines from the entire series. It is iconic.
It is perfect. And it's perfection here. It's well placed by him. It is very clever and crafty because she's had her first interaction. It did not go well. It was a failure. And here comes Colin in, not to save the day necessarily, but to go, me, look at how cute and charming I am.
No,
and you find me funny.
Look how we bond over humor.
Yeah.
Look how our humor is the same.
Look how easy this is.
Yep. That is the
It's so
the vibe.
easy. I can make you laugh. And that is one of his core things, like that you'll see often from this point on. Like when she gets his humor and his puns and his dad joke kind of things, his goal from this point on is, I want to see Penelope Featherington's teeth. I want her to smile. I want her to smile big. I want her to laugh. Like that is his goal from that point on.
Let me see your teeth, girl. Do you have good teeth?
Yeah, he wants to see her teeth, but not like old dude wanting to see Marina's. Like he wants to see her smile.
Do you have your own
So
teeth?
then
Let me see.
we skip a few scenes because stuff happens at side story.
Well, I think
we're back.
I think we can talk about the fact that Penelope and Colin are absolutely like cackling. They are on an inappropriate level of hilarity.
They're laughing
in a
so loud
space.
that Eloise is like,
from another room, she like does the lean back. Hang on a minute. I know both of the sounds of that laughter. Who's making them laugh? And then she realizes, oh, they're having a moment of connection. And she is jealous of this because she thought that her and Penelope were going to be old spinsters together. And she's like, hey, Penelope is moving on without me.
Right. And no offense, miss, how long has this been going on? This whole episode, she should have clocked. Why is my brother calling her Penelope? He never says Penelope. Her name is Pen. He's always called her Pen. Why is he calling her Penelope? And two, why in the world are they standing there giggling with each other in a ball? Like they're like no one else is in the room. No one else is in the room. When Colin and Penelope are looking at each other and in each other's space, nobody else exists. They act like nobody else exists.
Yeah.
And she's like, how long has this been going on? You know how long it's been going on. Like why are you so? She's the obtuse one, okay? It is not Colin. She is the obtuse one.
Yes. And obtuse does not mean stupid. Putting it out there. So next in our long list of lords that are wowed by Penelope's beauty is Lord Remington rolling on up to take his chance with the gossip queen herself.
Well, and what I find funny about this interaction is when she walks up, she is playing aloof, like she has seen Daphne do.
Yes.
And she has seen like Cressida do. So she's totally like not giving him attention, talking to him, but not looking at him, kind of acting haughty.
Yeah.
Haughty is the best word. Until he brings up Whistledown.
Yes.
And his like, genuine love of it.
Yes.
Genuine love of it.
And it's not
Colin clocks that she's talking with the guy. He's fine with that. Second, she smiles and steps forward and there's a connection. Genuine connection.
It's not very often that we hear men actively admitting that they enjoy Whistledown. Usually it's the men being like, oh, she's clocking me, talking to this person, she outed me as being on the marriage mark this season. Yeah. It is always the men complaining about Lady Whistledown. And this is a man who's actively engaging, saying, I love it. I love the gossip. I love the writing. I cannot wait for it every day. And this is finally some of the, I honestly think this gives her a little bit of confidence. Yeah. It is the affirmation, the words of affirmation of someone finally acknowledging to her face how good it is.
Well, you see, anytime somebody says something positive about Whistledown, like when Finch in season 2 says, don't you just love how she uses plant puns?
Yeah.
She's all giddy about that. And then later when Colin brings the ring and he goes, do you really think it's her? I really thought that Whistledown would be more clever. Yes. Just the way she watches him through the whole Colin pause and everything. She's staring at his lips. I want to see those good words come out of those lips. Everybody on the internet is like, oh, she wants to kiss him so bad she's staring at his lips. No, she wants to watch his lips form the positive affirmation about her writing that she's not getting because people don't know it's her.
Yeah.
Like she's got to play it off. She nods and she does this little smile thing.
She knows that Colin hates Lady Whistledown. She still wants him to acknowledge the intelligence of it.
Yeah. The cleverness. And I mean, she really wants, because she admires his writing. She wants him to, compliment the writing, but it's one thing, something that you want someone to be proud of. She could never get, Eloise talked highly of Whistledown until she, her more rebellious stuff, and Whistledown wasn't enough and all this. Penn kept trying to get her back on that track of talking positive about Whistledown. And then the moment she was going to have Colin, the man she loved, say something positive about Lady Whistledown, like she I seriously think she wanted to cup under his mouth to like catch any bit of those words in her hands and put it in her pocket. Like she was just like, I want to save this. I'm savoring this moment. He hasn't given her the ring yet. That comes next. But like that, when she remembers this core memory, it's not just going to be the ring. It's going to be that Colin said Whistledown was clever.
Yeah.
But in that moment, she gets that affirmation and she genuinely, like, she even steps forward and she gets interested.
And then she gets the second
super smiley
of him saying, I'm going to call upon you the next day. And this is the first time that she's ever had a gentleman caller for her. The first time.
And when she steps forward and Colin sees that connection, his jaw drops. His mouth opens. He's like, no, why is this happening? This is now two men.
Second time.
Two men in the same night. He's freaking out on the inside.
That is when the song by Nick Jonas starts playing, and it's called Jealous. And now I pulled up the lyrics because I want to dig into these. I know this is going to be another...
We are going to talk about this in the whole music episode, Kay. Don't freak out.
But I need to talk about the specific lyrics in this.
Yes, these
moment.
lyrics have to be talked about. Yes,
and I won't go into the whole thing, but I will just at least do the first verse. I don't like the way he's looking at you. I'm starting to think you want him too. Am I crazy? Have I lost ya? Even though I know you love me, I can't help it. And if those lyrics do not sum up this entire interaction, I don't know what does. And I mean, there is more, but we will
tell you that he 100% believes this is his woman.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to marry her. This is only a time filler until he can do it right.
Yeah.
He needed something in place to try and get Eloise on board because he wants to bring her home and he wants everyone to accept her in. So this whole lessons business was concocted to give them time alone, to have her, to earn back her favor because he thought he'd lost the love part. I really do think he believed at the end of season 2, they spoke words. So he needs to gain that back, but he also needs to buy time to figure out the whole friendship between her and Eloise because he wants to bring her into the family and not have any conflict because the whole Marina from start to finish was nothing but conflict. And he doesn't want any of that. He wants them to be proud of his choice. He's proud of his choice. So this was only a time filler. I mean, I really do think this ball was the ball. I think that this was because he doesn't say in the study, will you be attending the constellation ball or whatever? He says, will I see you tonight?
Yes.
That's very much a date line.
It is.
That is
and we see it with Lord Anderson. Oh, I don't think.
Yeah, it's Marcus Anderson. Yes,
Marcus.
You were
Anderson.
right, but you didn't say Lord.
Yeah, Lord Marcus
That was throwing
Anderson.
you off.
Yeah. Okay, so we have this whole moment between Penelope and Lord Remington, and then as Penelope and Colin are kind of doing their post-speed dating catch-up, we start hearing whispers around the ballroom.
Well, what's important about that post-interaction wrap-up is that she's excited he's going to call on her.
Mm-hmm.
And he says,
do you like him?
Do you like him? Like there's a pause. Like he's like, please say no. Please say no. And she's like, I did enjoy myself. She couldn't say she liked him.
No. Words
and
matter.
he just looks to the side and he's like, I'm sure he did too. Because that's honest truth. He believes Remington enjoyed himself. He wants to give her flowers. Like, you did a good job. But he's internally like, I can't let this girl loose on any man. Yeah. I'm screwed. Yeah, we have to be done here. But whispers begin. And they're, Penelope's finally starting to feel good about herself. She's got a lord coming to call upon her the next day. And keep in mind that her sisters, whom her mother put all her eggs into the basket, married untitled men. She has now had one successful conversation and one successful connection. But was Basilio unsuccessful?
She was very one successful connection. I said he was the successful connection because she was empathetic and kind towards him. So it was still a successful connection. And then the other one was successful in the way that he was going to call upon her.
Yeah.
So 2.
I think in the end, Basilio would have been like, she was kind. She was so sweet. Like he might have called on her again when he felt up to it.
Yes.
Because she was genuine and empathetic and caring.
Yes. And then we have
Remington would have won the race though, because he's going the next day.
Well, he's got wheels. He can go speedy. He can speed himself along there.
But I think like Colin is now like, okay. And the reason he asked her, do you like him, is because he wants Penelope to have what Penelope wants. He always puts other people first before himself. So even though he has a plan, if she would have said, yes, I like him, I think this is what I want,
at this point,
he would have backed off.
He doesn't know if Penelope likes him at all. So if she's saying, yes, I have feelings for someone else, or I'm starting to have feelings for someone else, that is going to give him the information that he needs to, you know, make further moves. But alas,
I think he feels like he has a connection with her that I think he wants to progress this evening, but it doesn't work out because the rumor gets out. And they're cruel. And I'll tell you what, Lady Keswick says the most cruel thing. That should tell you what Lady Danbury thinks of her brother, that she offers up this woman as a potential person that he could have a relationship with, because she is just like, who has so little hope for success. Like,
there are some really mean mamas out there. Like, they are, like, I'm just going to say it, since we've already got language in this podcast at this point. They are straight up bitch. They are awful, awful women who need to mind their manners. For people who are so roundabout everything that they say in society, they never speak straight truths. But you think it is okay to actively put down a girl, a young girl. She's a teenage girl. You're going to all at once pile upon this one girl who's never done anything wrong to any of them in society that they know of, and they are just piling onto an innocent girl who is usually a wallflower at these events, and they don't even notice that she exists until this point, and they're going to pile onto this poor girl. Like, this scene,
they ganged up on her.
Angry.
And what I love about Colin in this moment, this is where Colin shows he's not ashamed of her at all. He hears the whispers, he knows they're talking about her, and he's right up in their face. What are you whispering about? And then they all say what they say. And if you
Which was very poor decorum on his behalf. He is not going to play into society's rules when it comes to protecting Penelope. He is going to call them the F out to their faces. He called them
out. Yeah. But here's what's funny. So when they say everything they say, and I just want to point out, the people that are standing here are Miss Livingston and I can't remember the other girl.
I have my list in front of me.
Then it's Araminta, Lady Keswick, and Livingston's mother is in the bully group. But when Penn runs out, the other two girls that are talking about Whistledown, I don't think they're bullies. They're separated from the other group, and they're talking about this will be in Whistledown, and that's Miss Goring and Miss Berrigan.
Yes.
And I think their whole thing is we're going to have an exciting Whistledown issue. It has nothing to do with Penelope. They're not, I mean, because Miss Goring should be like, oh, that could have been me, you know? But these are the bitches. And
is it because like Anne Hardigan
is not also Emma,
not Anne, because she's also quite cruel. Anne is not a nice debutante.
It might have been Hardigan. It was not Miss Berrigan, because Miss Berrigan was standing with Miss Goring when she was leaving.
I'm pretty sure that this face that she's making in this scene is like
it might be her.
That is the specific scene that we're talking about. That
and
is
because I'm not looking at it. I'm totally going from memory.
No, but she's pulling a face like Colin. It is that scene.
When they say that, and Penn, like, you see the camera, and this is good camera work. So Penn starts getting anxiety and feeling embarrassed and feeling trapped. And the camera just gets closer and closer and closer and closer to her face until she's just like, she's got to go. She's in fight or flight. She's got to go. And she takes off. Now, Colin doesn't get a chance. She doesn't give him a chance to address this. And he instantly, this is number 2. I'm chasing Penelope out of a ballroom.
Yeah.
Number 2, Colin chases Penelope out of a ballroom again. But please, everybody, tell me that he didn't fall for her until the kiss. Please tell me again. Anyways, I've had 0 sleep, so I'm a little sarcastic now.
So first, I want to go back just a pinch to add on to what you're saying about the camera work. The other time that we see the camera work of her having an out-of-body, anxiety-induced, like very surreal moment is when they're walking into Bridgerton house to announce their engagement. This is showing that,
and the engagement party when she's freaking out about telling him. Yeah.
So we get a few scenes where we see this is their direct way of showing that she's having this out of body, overwhelmed, anxiety induced, maybe like a panic attacky kind of feeling coming over, where she's like, this can't be real. Like, what is happening right now? And they've done that very beautifully.
Very well. This one is more like getting closer. So you feel like the space is getting small around her. This is absolute anxiety.
Yes. And keep in mind that Colin running after Penelope openly before him, when he did it after the Danbury ball, only the 2 lords
and they didn't know. I mean, he did it in such a way where he didn't say he was going after her. He just said, excuse me.
Yeah.
That one was not quite as obvious, but they knew because she had just left. He openly turns and runs. And when you look at these ladies' faces, okay, they're like, oh,
yes.
Really?
Yeah.
This is why nobody was surprised when the engagement was announced.
No, because him actively doing this in front of everyone was only ever going to encourage rumors of those two being together, because it was such a public, like, not only was he chasing after her to protect her, he was chasing after her where they would be alone together, unchaperoned. He did that in front of everyone.
Yeah. I mean, he ran out. And not only that, like, he didn't acknowledge the conversation wasn't over. They had all said their stuff. Like, he needed to leave the conversation in a socially acceptable way, even though it's a crap conversation and it's rude and it's terrible. And I'm trying my best not to swear here. But even though it's a terrible conversation, he is still supposed to be a gentleman, and he is supposed to say, excuse me, ladies, and turn and go. No, he's just like, I'm out, bounce. Yeah. He might as well put the middle finger up, really, and just ran. I mean, he runs out of that room after her. And not only those women see it, everybody. And he pushes through two lords.
Yes.
To get to her. Everyone sees this is a man chasing after a woman that he cares about, who's upset. And that's why I think the reason that Berrigan and Goring are off separate and they're saying, oh, this will be a great story in Whistledown, not necessarily about her. And Penelope only writes about her embarrassment and everything. She doesn't write about it because she didn't realize he chased her. I think she was so into herself because of the anxiety. She was so into herself that she didn't realize.
That. They should have clocked that. They should have realized.
This is reason number 973 when Penelope tells the whole world she's Lady Whistledown.
I think we're up to 974, actually.
I mean, we're almost at 1,000. We know. I mean, this whole season, she's pretty much screaming it from the rooftops. And everybody's like, what?
And I love that Colin becomes completely unhinged in this moment, because it is one thing for him to become unhinged when talking to ladies, but his family holds a special place in his heart. And for him to just completely unload on his sister in this next scene, because we have Penelope now, we have Colin chasing after her, and then we have this T intersection of Eloise running out at the same time to go protect her friend, because she is just as upset at
comfort her friend, because she knows she spread the rumor. She gave it
unintentionally, and she's feeling guilty as hell for that, because she did it, but she didn't ever intend for it to get out. But she knows she's
first
guilty.
Before we talk about the ick, what I love in this moment is we see, even separate, just how close Eloise and Penn are, that they have the same type of vernacular and the way they interact with Colin. So you know, these three played as children, these three interacted like it was these three all the time. And how you know that is because when he asked her directly, did you tell anyone about this? Well, she's like, I did not. I mean, I did not mean to, which is exactly what Penn did when he asked her about the journal.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. She started to say, I did not, but realized that's a lie.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to lie to Colin. So she says, I did not mean to. And that's exactly what Eloise does. And it shows you just how close they still are and how close they've always been, because they communicate the same way. So now we can talk about the ick.
Oh, I wasn't even up to the ick. I was up to the part of Colin finally calling, like, he is done playing pretend. He is calling his sister the F out. Why would you ever forsake Penelope? Why in the hell would you ever forsake a girl who is the absolute pinnacle of class intelligence, that is so much the other half of you? What could she have ever possibly done to deserve this and to replace
Which is,
her
again,
with...
Colin, how did Eloise not know?
What
could Penelope have ever done? Like, a man saying that to anyone, they're going to be like, you like this girl?
Yeah.
What could she ever do to make you choose Crescent over her?
He's not hiding any of his feelings in this moment. He is putting it all out there for her, and she ain't picking up what she's putting down.
I don't think he's hidden his feelings from Eloise this whole episode.
No.
She's just not picking up on it. And in this moment, she's already watched Antony.
He's playing poker and she's playing rummy.
He's not playing poker. That is not a poker face.
No.
He's straight up in the middle of Pall Mall.
You know, like they're playing two different games here. Like she thinks they're in the wrong game.
Well, and she knows she's in the wrong. And she kind of wants to tell him why she's so mad, but she doesn't because he dominates that interaction. Ooh, because he is so angry.
I don't think
and like when she asked Penelope later, what is his condition? Like she knows when Colin gets this mad, because Colin doesn't get mad often. Yes. Colin is passive aggressive and sarcastic. And I know because I relate to Colin as the Bridgerton sibling. That is me. He keeps a lot of what he's thinking and feeling inside because he puts others first and their comfort comes first. But sometimes you are just hurt to the point where like he relies on sarcasm and humor. And so when he does get to this point and he snaps, she knows I'll just bide my time. Okay. But because he stops and talks to Eloise, he misses Penelope and she gets in the carriage and she leaves. So she never sees the man she loves chase her out of a ballroom, doesn't even clock it because she is so in her feels. She is so anxiety ridden. She's in the middle of the panic attack was inside because she knew she was going to cry. She knew she was going to get emotional. And Penelope, growing up in the home she did, she doesn't get emotional in front of people.
It's not okay.
They don't get to see
emotion. That. No.
Right. Well, not okay to show emotion. Her armor's on in society at all times because she doesn't want to be vulnerable. She doesn't want to be hurt.
In her household, except for in her room.
Yeah, except for in her room. And that's why she's in her room so much. She is the Francesca in her household.
Yeah.
Because she's always in her room. She's always isolating herself. But she knew she was going to get emotional and she had to get out of there. And so she didn't know that Colin chased her because if she would have known that, she would have been like, what? But in front of everybody?
If she did know, I still don't think she would have put a whistle down.
I think, no, she would protect.
Yeah.
Because the way she wrote about it in Whistledown is she made it sound like he's the gallant knight saving the desperate, sad girl. Yeah.
So I did have some other points, but I've actually moved them down to the next episode because I think that they kind of go along with that a little bit better. And our poor listeners have gone from 30-minute episodes to 50-minute episodes to hour-long episodes to hour-and-a-half long episodes. And these poor people, they're done listening to us.
We love you we love you listening to us. And
thank you for your patience.
These. Yeah.
Thank you for your patience, everyone.
I think I enjoy listening to us, not because I'm not narcissistic in any way, but I seriously have ADHD. So once I have this conversation and we end it, it leaves my mind. Well, and then
I have to edit it.
And then it posts the next week and it's like fresh and new for me. I'm re-listening to it. And seriously, like I'm not I never intended for this to be like anything more than what it is, just chatting and talking and recording it. I mean, literally that's all we do. But just listening back to it, I find it entertaining. Like I'm laughing at us so much. Like it brings me joy to relive it and listen to the funny stuff again. And like I said, the whole Colin T sculpture thing, I'm dying to rehear.
Honestly, I think our Benedict spoilers bonus episode 1, our first one, is probably my favorite that we've recorded to date. So I hope everyone thoroughly enjoys that episode because a lot of laughter, and by the time you hear
this episode, you will have already heard that episode. Yeah. So
unless people skipped it in case they didn't. In that case, I totally understand. But for today, gentle listeners, we are going to leave it there and continue on next week's episode where we will finally get to talk about the kiss. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you are enjoying our podcast, please remember to click the follow button on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. Once again, thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women. Yours truly, Touch the Kiwi.
I was like, what are you doing?
I know my lines.
You go first. And Lady Patty.